Well, good morning, good day, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Peter Tuddenham, past president of ISSS, and I'm here deputizing for our current president, Roland Huda, to introduce today's session, Natural Language as Systems Language, and our speaker today is Jesse Henshaw.
Does everybody see a single slide on the screen?
Is language an organic form of system science, question mark?
Question mark. No. So I've been studying language as a key to understanding what people mean when they use it as a system scientist for many years, and pulling together a number of things that I've turned up in the process. I realized that there is a difference between traditional science and language, that they're built differently, but language is built around the systems of nature and our experiences of them, and we build our lives around them. And so it's very clear that the language is very successful for lots of people in navigating a complex world of complex systems. So there must be some secret to how we know what we seem to know. And I think it has to do with language being a science in the sense that, first the questions, isn't language highly unscientific? Oh, yes, given the current definition of scientific. We have common words that link ideas and images and feelings, experiences and things and systems of nature, and we share our experiences using the language. Nature can look random if we try to make sense of it in our minds. That's, as I find, particularly because nature's most reliable connections are so often intermittent, like your food intake. It happens at 1, 2, or 3 times a day generally, but not in between. So that's the energy flow to your body is intermittent, and there's no way to trace that scientifically. So there are a lot of things that work differently in nature and in language than in science. The question is often whether shared meanings check with the natural subjects. You know, like if you talk about a book, or you talk about an ocean, or you talk about a life, do those things check with the natural subjects being referred to? And it's by people validating those questions, hearing a word and a suggestion of a meaning, and then checking their understanding of the world to see if it makes sense. And the question is, what is a science? To me, it's a culture that accumulates and validates useful and transferable knowledge. And that's posed as a question here. There are nonverbal sciences, the cultures that humans form are in that sense sciences, that they develop shared and innovative ways of knowing and living that meet the real test of time, or sometimes fail or age and die. But they have so sciences as cultures are life cycle forms of natural systems. And then there are the verbal sciences. System science would need to focus on what the word system refers to in language. And of course, the definition of what the language refers to changes with which group of people you're talking with in a community of system sciences. It might be different than what the general language means by it. General language seems to mean, by the etymology of the word, and it means working things that hold together. And so that's I think very compatible with what we mean. And that's a meaning that is probably 10,000 years old. The age of the roots of our language, which are faithfully kept by some magical means. It's another reason I think language is a science. That the roots of language are very constant and highly preserved, even while language itself is exceedingly flexible and changing. So then, what are languages? I tend to think of them in a general sense as structures that coordinate messaging within a complex system. Like in a friendship, you have a language that is the friendship's language, as you do in a marriage, as you do in a business, as you do in a culture, as you do in a discipline. And the language can be either an abstract language or one that gets meanings from the context of the system. I guess the mathematical language certainly gets meanings from the context of its mathematical use in abstract systems science, but language is not one of those. Language gets its meanings from the contextual relevance of the things that the language refers to. The box only has meaning in terms of the uses of boxes, for example, and it doesn't have other definition. So it's a living. The language is a living thing in that way, or in many ways. So language is formed by experience with systems in context, rather than isolated from context, like the mathematical theories are developed, and then it evolves to work better over time. The root meanings are kept, and the adaptions of them come from changing the form of the word or how it's used. So in that sense, I think it's an organic science. It's an organic system and behaves as a science does, with expanding and validating its useful information. So I've put a lot of grade text on these slides, so that stuff you don't have to read, but you can, just because so much black text about languages gets kind of blinding. And I would be happy to have people to raise questions at any time if there's any particular issue, burning question, etc. Anyway, there are many holistic natural patterns that words refer to. For example, that are hard to define, but seem to be successfully defined in usage. So it's apparent that human perception is more aware of how complex systems are defined by some other means than science would normally, using rules and definitions. People recognize where the boundaries of a culture are in a town, or in a conversation immediately, and don't need to go through a complex analysis to determine it. Let's see, and of course that remarkable holism of knowledge that language offers us, that there, as I think I already mentioned, that there are so many wonderful examples of people with tremendous insight and skill in lots of unusual situations, that it's really amazing that we have those facilities of knowing the world so very well when it's so very beyond our ken.
Wait,
Hello?
sorry.
Oh, okay. With one major exception, of course, our life support language being quite blind to why systems fail. That's all the words I could fit in on that little box. I'm talking about, of course, how our world is desperately trying to end its existence by driving a complex system that's very sensitive to internal coordination to achieve limitlessly complex change in an instant. So there's something interfering with the knowledge that language gives us on Earth today. So that's not something I'm going to spend much time on. It's one of my main subjects in my other papers. And then now language is structured like a tree with roots and trunks and branches and leaves. The terms and meanings are built upon the root, many seeming to mark very ancient, many thousand-year-old older insights. We shaped our lives around our learning, making our cultures structured by our words and our words structured by the systems that we work with. So it's quite remarkable, but that because of that linkage between the natural phenomena and how they work for us, or how we successfully negotiate and respond to them, it gives us a very enduring principles of nature through the existence of language. And let me see the now root meanings begin a branching tree of meaning. Sounds become words culturally connected with meaningful observations and experiences, made generally verifiable by association with their natural origins. Here are two of my favorite words: inspiration and organization. Inspiration is in-spire-ation, so that's three root meanings of the language modifying the word spire. And spire has to do with I guess 1,000 years ago, had to do with the French, the immediate influence of God, or a God, and the Old French inspiration as inhaling, so breathing, and from late Latin inspiration, inspirato, from PIE, which is Proto-Indo-European. You'll see that acronym a few times. That's the language that existed before language, or before any records of any kind of meaning. That there are patterns in the common to all the languages that have extremely distant roots that appear to have no origin. So we call it that, and this is, of course, for the northern continent languages. Even Chinese has the same syllables for mother and father, but all the Indian, every language in every culture in the northern hemisphere, has those, and so those are words that particular pair, mother and father, seem to name a particular system design and of a collaborative union, and so that is why I mentioned that. And but the spire also means spiral, and spiraling from is how inspirations develop. That's the emergence of growth is also expressed there. So those are connections to deep phenomena in nature. Organization, the etymology is that it refers to a musical instrument, an organ, or I guess, but that's what it says in the online etymology resource and reference. In Latin, it's organum, musical instrument. Greek, organon, implement,
Just
tool.
close my door, okay?
Hello?
Close my door.
Oh, well, I didn't hear that. Was that a question?
No, it wasn't. No, I'll mute it.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. No problem. So these are things that don't ring true to what organization means to us. Where did they get into why are they the primary etymology of the word? It does get down to one of the Greek meanings being an organ, a sense organ or a body, but in the etymology, it basically means some operating mechanism that one works with emphasis, a working tool, organ, or it comes from the original PIE of verg anno, I guess, or as organ. So somehow there are also bad translations involved in developing these word origin maps, and revisionist histories that there are certain important words that aren't in the etymologies too. But we understand organization as having to do with a complete system of relationships of some sort, and not as some tool that someone else operates. Anyway, these words, so the usage is really the dominant, is the controlling definition of the word. So I use a couple of tools to explore the usage of words. One is see if it's, oh, well, here's another pair of words. I'm getting ahead of myself. The meaning of science, oh, it's already 25 minutes. I haven't gone anywhere. Well, but this is important. The meaning of science as a word comes from both to separate and to know. But to know didn't come from separate, except in science. They got merged in science. But that sort of connects with how science has depended on the traditional meaning of science has depended on the use of controlled experiments and isolating things from their environments in order to study them, to avoid interference and get the most pure signal of some behavior isolated from its environment. Now, of course, most living things can't give you a pure behavior isolated from their environment. So in a way, science leaves out something very big and important in relying on isolated experiments. Again, the meanings of the words, I think, we're going through this to try to understand the meanings that we know. The meanings we know are probably more accurate than the ones that are written here. These are notes on where all the different kinds of meanings seem to have come from. But anyway, from the Proto-Indo-European, the science comes from ski, to cut or split. And knowledge from the Proto-Indo-European, it comes from gno, meaning to know. So having different roots. Oh, and here's another one. Concept and context. Etymology of concept is that it's a mental construct or generalization from Latin, a thing conceived, to take in and hold, become pregnant. So it's something that bursts in the mind, I gather, from that phrasing. From con, the prefix meaning together. So things coming together from a kind of pregnancy. In the Proto-Indo-European, the com means beside, near, and with, the first syllable, and the root kop, to grasp. So it's to grasp things that are near. And in context, the etymology is surroundings, settings, environment, that which is the other than where you are. It's the perimeter or reach. The Latin contextus, a joining together, com, the prefix with or together, and textere, to weave, to make. And in the Proto-Indo-European, con comes from cum, beside, nearby, which is kind of similar to, well, yeah, that's quoting the same one from concept. I'm reading. And then the root text, to weave, also to fabricate. So context has a very different cultural meaning to us now. We think of it as all the stuff near enough to make a difference, but far enough to be hard to pay attention to, that kind of the you know, a topology concept of near and far. So let me see, I'll just do this. So here you have a little bit of what leaving out the context causes science to miss, the SCurve, and what it's for. The SCurve starts with an inspiration, an animating process of emergent design of some sort that spirals into existence by a process of capturing energy and resources to build more ability to capture energy and resources as a new science does. You know, just as you start, people say, "Whoa, this is going to, you know, make us rich," or something, or solve the hidden problem. Something takes off as a new business, etc. We all know about those socially, but science is sort of stumped to define them scientifically. And I'm saying that language is a way to do that now, that we see that language actually does accumulate highly useful knowledge from a kind of crowdsourcing of our interactions with the world we live in. Inspiration and expiration, for example. Yeah, both spirals. Oh, I guess I have to do this. Yeah, that's, oh, I missed one. Yes. And here's another example. The network in the abstract network is a series of, you know, deterministic relationships between nodes which have an operator in them, perhaps, a conceptual network on the left, and of course the same network on the right is the natural network of each node having a context in which it operates and out of which it probably grew, and inside there's a living system. There's an interior design to nodes in a context, yeah, or in a natural network. So and inside each of the nodes in a natural world, each of the centers, I'll call them, that's a more familiar term in that context. Each of the centers is a home. Every system is a home for the animated part inside. And the homes have various designs. They always have some place inside for the network of relationships to function, and some controlled access outside, and so centers with connection is one of the oldest principles of culture, and somehow it got left out of science, though. That, you know, we always isolate things, and centers with connection is how things are joined. So work to do, but still the two cultures, or the common language culture and the scientific culture, are a long way apart, but I think that they have things to learn from each other. Now, this is a little more detail on the next couple slides are on coordinating the roots of the language. You have two people in conversation. Each validates their copy, listening to the usages that the other expresses. And so it's in conversation that language becomes the highly flexible and yet still deeply grounded utility it is. And another slide on essentially the same thing, but putting in that where we get our languages, our authentic root copy of the language is by inheritance from someone else. It's passed on to us either at home along with the home culture or elsewhere through a long experience with a group of other students and their lives or other ways. But you get once you get an authenticated copy of the language and its culture, you start contributing to the authentication of it for others. Because in every conversation, the first words are about coordinating language and culture, and so that people know how to add the correct inflections and shadings and meaning to carry on a conversation, and those spread and reinforce the language by reconnecting it with the observable phenomena and experiences that the language refers to. And then I'll go a little quicker with this. This is one of the tools I use. It's called OneLook Dictionary, and I have the link to it at the bottom of the slide on the other slides. I missed it here somehow. But anyway, there are more than 2,000 words with the suffix ic, tropic, eccentric, magic. They all kind of mean like, only it's a different kind of like. The same with ing, building, gravitating, strolling. You're doing the stroll thing, you're doing the gravity thing. It's another like, and so on down the list. There are not many. These are all the ones that the extensive database of this tool has that are over 1,000 different words with the same ending. But these are very familiar. We use them all the time. We know exactly what they mean, and they're shadings of the root meaning that's attached. They're attached to, and it's a very effective kind of equation for interpreting what people are saying, and interpreting it in a way that fits into the conversation, because these nuances are very flexible, and you interpret the word and its modifiers according to what you're talking about, and it works quite well. And math can't do that yet, anyway. Anyway, compound words have often showed dimensions of meaning, that they mean both or all three: a state, a process, and a purpose. So really a systems analysis of the root meaning as modified. So abbreviation is a 3-syllable word that's used for both shortening something, the shortened form of it, and what it's for. You can say it's for abbreviation. The acclamation is similar, deletion is similar. It's a process, deleting, taking something out, removing something. It's an end state, a deletion. It's the reason, it's to delete something. And the same with cooperation. It's together, work making, as I see it. The 3 syllables is together, work and then making, together work making, as a cooperation, is a process. It's a state. You're in. It's a state of being in a system, a cooperative system, and a purpose to be cooperative. Coordination, and many, many, many other words. All the words, it seems, that end in tion. It's a doing suffix, and this is the words that end in sys, which is an extremely short list, only 38, and they all have to do with system. The common root of the sys prefix is syn, and that's to so that's where the etymology of system comes from. There's no root term sys. It all goes back to syn. And so at some point, maybe with the well, I don't know, 1610s is when the first use seems to have been. So not long ago. New word, a new root. And then here's another the same kind of thing, but with advertise, starting with all the ties or eyes suffixes. This is to change something in the form of something else. That's a very constructive, meaningful attribution, and so the root of advertise is ver. What's ver mean? Well, that means in the earliest references that root capsule means direction, and adver means to change direction, turn the direction, and advertise then means to spread an advert or spread the change of direction. And you see how that's built up? It's most words are like that if you look at them carefully. And then here's cis again, double. Now sin. There are 281 with the prefix sin, syntropy and entropy, and there are 1,400 with the prefix en. So sin has something to do with bringing things together. En has to do with bringing things together in a different way, and then or apart. The en prefix is a bit of either, and tropy is a direction turn, a Greek tropos, a turn. So there's clearly an interest in direction in two different roots that we just looked at. So that adds complexity to the root network. But one of the interesting things is that syntropy is not a word in the dictionary. It's only a word in usage. The etymology dictionary says it doesn't exist. So also, I think pointing to the dominance of a culture of isolating things, entropy is very well studied. Do fall together. These things do fall apart. Things falling together isn't. So there's another schism in the language pointed to there. So synergy is a working together, cooperation, pulling together from the Greek synergia, joint work together, cooperation, assistance, help, together work. The PIE root is worg, to do, and worg is also sounds like the word, and there are a lot of words that have the sound of what they refer to, and you can just think 10,000 years ago there were people working, and when they said, "What are you doing?" I'm working, and anyway, so that's the talk, and I guess I left enough room for some conversation. Good. So language is incredibly flexible, and we have lots of uses for, our favorite words: boundary, road, home, well, glow. Others, have hundreds of uses. That's one of the best ways to explore. I think maybe it's probably easiest to do on your own, but I encourage you, if you want to follow this thread, to get the slides and read them. I put a link at the top of the chat, and think of all the ways you can use the word road. Talking about a relationship being on the right road, or a play, etc. Anyway, and so yeah, the bottom here, you can snatch this side with a screen clip, has my research email and the slides link, and I thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very pleased to have been pushed to assemble my notes. Unfortunately, in trying to go through my notes, more accumulated and that I haven't worked on. So maybe I'll do some more of this. Anyway, that's all there is.